as long as there was no money wagered on Major League Baseball, we're avoiding the worst case scenario in this entire ordeal. And that's really, I think, all anyone, Rob Manfred or otherwise, in the league office cares about.
Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, lost more than $40 million through sports betting over a 26-month span, according to a bombshell criminal complaint released by federal prosecutors yesterday. Worst sports bettor who ever lived was charged with federal bank fraud after being accused of stealing more than $16 million from Ohtani to cover gambling debts here. So, Gojo, in total, he won just north of $142 million, but lost $182 million through the illegal bookmaker, who is $40 million richer now. What do you think? There was a $10 bet in there as well. Everyone's like, what was the $10 bet?
I know everyone looking at the stats that came out of this. Front Office Sports was the account that tweeted it. The average wager for Ippei was about $12,800. The largest wager, $160,000, and the smallest wager was $10. And yeah, everyone looking for this much volume and this many bets per day, what possibly he could have thrown $10 on. There were also people, because in this large, extensive report that was released, there was a few interesting things that came out of actual substance, like the fact that there's still no evidence that there was any money or any bets placed on Major League Baseball at this point, which, whatever part of the story you believe at this point concerning Shohei's involvement in this or not, there were text messages exchanged between the bookmaker and between Ippei, where the bookmaker tries to say, Ippei, after the original article comes out, texts this bookmaker, and the bookmaker says, oh, well, this is, clearly we can see this is a cover-up and you're taking the fall, and the Ippei tries to say, oh, no, well, I actually did steal from him. It's over for me. However you think that sounds and that lands for you, Dad, at the end of the day, the main factor seems to still be pointing back to, as long as there was no money wagered on Major League Baseball, we're avoiding the worst case scenario in this entire ordeal. And that's really, I think, all anyone, Rob Manfred or otherwise, in the league office cares about.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, the gambling is illegal in California, so from that side of it, it was wrong. You're working with an illegal bookmaker. That is wrong, but you're right. It wasn't on your sport, because now, as gambling is becoming legal, we can see you can do it on other sports, just like we talked about in baseball, but just not on baseball. I don't think Shohei's going to be in any trouble here, wherever this investigation goes. However you want to look at it, I'm sure there are going to be people, we know, Mike, that are going to think Shohei has a fall guy here, right? And he's going to take care of him. And that Shohei was actually in on this, which would blow my mind, given the money the guy makes. So I don't know, obviously, enough about this situation, but it does seem that Shohei is not going to be in any trouble at all in this. And this is just at some point going to go away, and it's going to be the interpreter getting into whatever trouble he's going to get into.
That seems to be where this is centered on, because you're right. Again, this all goes back to a subject that, because we know so little about Shohei Ohtani, we have a really hard time grappling with what we might actually think this person could be capable of, or what could happen in his situation, because so much of what's gone on with him has been kept behind this gate his entire career. That's all his personal information, let alone how he would deal in something like this, who, for anyone, again, that might have missed this at the beginning, Ippei Mizuhara is a guy that Shohei's known since he was a young man getting into all this. He's 10 years his senior. They've been described as incredibly close friends, in addition to the business relationship that they have. And so this guy having access to his accounts, this guy apparently now, investigators saying, through phone records that they've got, Mizuhara falsely identifying himself as Ohtani to trick bank employers into authorizing transfer. All this stuff that big time illegal, regardless of what their relationship is, and sounds like will absolutely be the thing that brings him down, still doesn't do anything, I think, to clarify the nature of the relationship and the truth at the center of this for some people. But, Dad, the mountain of evidence that we've got now just seems to support that, yes, this guy seems like he's going to go to jail or have at least some punishment levied for all of this. And Shohei Ohtani is going to be allowed to keep playing baseball, but, Dad, not without, I think, this certain cloud always associated with him, even if it's not the first thing that we're going to bring up, even months from now, if the Dodgers keep going on the pace that they've started this season at.
It's not. You're right. This is going to become kind of an afterthought. This is going to be kind of, oh, yeah, Shohei was involved, in this situation. And, it's going to turn out, I don't think he's going to get in trouble. So, yeah, just like it's not going to be the main thing you talk about with Shohei. It's going to be an afterthought on him. I think eventually, and to Rob Manfred in baseball's, I'm sure, joy, that's how it's going to end up. Because when this first came out, I mean, my God, the guy who signs the biggest contract of all time, and then all of a sudden is the headline for a betting scandal, could not be worse for the game we're talking about, the integrity of the game. I mean, what a bombshell that day that had to be for Rob Manfred in baseball. But to me, I think there's no doubt that they're gonna escape this.
Well, in Ippei's defense here, one of his alleged texts to the bookies, he says, "I'm terrible at the sports betting thing, huh? LOL." Like, what an all-time quote and a new meme that absolutely went platinum yesterday on Twitter.
Well, between that and then the text message exchange where he talks about he's been messing around with soccer, because, again, the focus of this was what sports was he betting on, what was going on here. And as long as it wasn't baseball, Dad, I'm with you. Technically, in the Major League Baseball, Players Association, their collective bargaining agreement, if you're doing any dealings with an illegal bookmaker or if you're betting on baseball, you, in their eyes, are guilty of something that would warrant punishment. And so while that was here morally and the ways that we're worried about this existentially for the sport, if it was even Shohei Ohtani betting with an illegal bookmaker but not betting on baseball, I think for most of us, that's something where it's like, all right, you're an adult, that's your money, you make a ton of it, and so if you're comfortable with that, then as long as you're not betting on Major League Baseball, I kind of am going to throw my hands up and go, all right, that's the way the news goes. But in this, as that subject was all the way around it, we had the text message exchange where Ippei says, quote, "I've been messing around with soccer. There's games on 24/7, LOL. I took UCLA, but they lost outright." People actually went back and looked and noted that when these text messages were sent in 2021, UCLA soccer was on a tear and wasn't losing games then. And they actually think he was referencing the UCLA and Fresno State banger of a game where Jake Haener, one of my favorite college quarterbacks in recent memory, went off for 455 yards in a game where they came back and won 40-37. So at the very least, we know he had great taste in content because we were all dialed in on that game, and it was awesome.
It was. Listen, this guy's going to be forgetting the gambling part of it. I mean, to go into now, listen, Shohei may not press charges. That doesn't mean nothing's going to happen to him because they have all this evidence against him. They could still obviously go after him, but you wonder if Shohei is going to do things now to help him because they were longtime friends. And you just wonder where that's going to go. I don't think it's going to help the interpreter in the long run with the mounds of evidence against him. But, a lot of times you have someone that goes after and said, "I'm pressing charges. Hit him with everything you can." I don't know if Shohei is going to do that. Dude's still going to be obviously in a lot of trouble, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But clearly, not the headline that's going to worry baseball anymore.
Yeah, once the feds get involved, you've got a lot to worry about. And so with that being the source of this and the bank fraud he's accused of by the feds, or I should say a complaint accusing Ippei of bank fraud, carries a max fine of up to $1 million and or up to 30 years in prison, according to federal sentencing guidelines. There's a long way to go between then and now. And yeah, Dad, I will be fascinated for the people that thought that this might be a situation of a Fall Guys situation, and would he be taken care of, or just, you're right, from the relationship standpoint, what this looks like going forward, as I'd imagine it's probably in Shohei's best interest, no matter his level of, perceived guilt or not. If at this point we're just going to operate under what we have evidence-wise, Shohei Ohtani has so far been absolved of any wrongdoing in this situation and looks like he will continue to be. And if you were someone else advising him now, it would be in his best interest to no longer associate with this person who's been tied to the one headline that could stain an otherwise incredibly already successful career, and one that shows even more promise now going forward as he got paid the King's ransom, as the Dodgers are the team to beat in Major League Baseball.